If you thought this offseason was going to be quiet, yeah, don't get comfortable. Today is one of those days where every headline looks like its own little island, until you step back and realize they're all connected. There's a decision that keeps the offense's heartbeat steady without any fireworks. There's a defensive dream name being floated that would make every quarterback in the NFC West sleep a little lighter. There's a chess piece at the most sensitive spot in football that could turn into real draft capital. And there's a message behind all of it. The red and gold defense isn't interested in reliving what happened when the pass rush vanished. That's the part that should grab you. You see the thread yet? Real franchise maturity isn't the loud stuff. It's not the chest thumping. It's when you keep the right hands on the wheel and you don't get pulled into ego, titles, and shiny new opportunities. That's why this Klay Kubiak decision matters. He pulled himself out of head coaching consideration. It sounds small on the surface, I get it, but it reads like a massive signal about what's being built in Santa Clara. After Robert Saleh left, the rest of the league started looking at our staff like it was a showroom. That's what happens when you've been living in the title window. Teams don't just study your players, they try to copy your brains. The Raiders and Steelers requested to interview Kubiak, and honestly, that's normal. When the league thinks you've got the blueprint, they start circling the people who helped draw it up. But according to Diana Rossini of The Athletic, Kubiak removed himself from the mix because he prefers to keep working with Kyle Shanahan. And that shifts the entire feel of this offseason. Start with continuity. This offense runs on timing and shared language. How you build chunk plays, how you stack concepts, how you adjust week to week without tearing the whole thing down and starting over. Pull out the guy organizing that, and sure, you might get new, but you lose efficiency. Kubiak has been climbing inside this building since 2021. Defensive quality control, assistant QB coach, passing game specialist, and now offensive coordinator. That isn't a cute resume line. That's a deep understanding of the system, where it bogs down, where it's lethal, what Brock Purdy needs, what the O-line needs, what it looks like when the whole thing is humming and you're stringing drives together without forcing it. Then you've got the league context. Tom Pelissero pointed to Kubiak as a potential wild card in the head coaching cycle because Shanahan loves him. And you can see why people would whisper about it. But the wind shifted fast. Adam Schefter said the Steelers plan to hire Mike McCarthy. Either way, Kubiak choosing to stay says a lot. He's not grabbing the first shiny thing just because it's there. He's sticking with the work that's already in motion. And here's the part a lot of people miss. Kubiak already has real influence where he is. Plenty of folks assume if another team offers play calling, he's out. But Shanahan basically cut that narrative off at the season wrap press conference. He suggested Kubiak already calls plenty of plays in San Francisco, and then dropped a line that sounded like a message to the rest of the league. Why would I let him be somebody else's offensive coordinator? Translation, without dressing it up. A true promotion, you can't block. A lateral move, you can. And Shanahan isn't in the business of weakening his own offense so someone else can feel better about theirs. That lands in the locker room as stability. It lands with Purdy as stability. The chemistry stays intact. You don't wake up in April with a brand new playbook just because someone wanted a different title on their door. That matters more than people realize. Now, pause for a second. Because if the offense just got a layer of calm, the defense might be walking toward the opposite vibe. Push the chips in territory. And the name being floated is the kind that makes 3rd and long feel like a coin toss for the offense, even when they think they've got the look. Nothing is confirmed yet, but you keep hearing the same "what if" for a reason. Max Crosby. And this is the kind of rumor that only sticks around if it makes a little too much sense. Here's why it's bubbling up right now. Off-season talk always ramps up. Front offices talk, agents float ideas, analysts connect dots. Crosby's name keeps circling in that league-wide what-if trade chatter, not because the Raiders have to move him, but because when a team hasn't fully flipped into true contention, everything becomes a conversation in January and February. And the contract cap math is real. It's complicated, sure, but it's not impossible if the acquiring team gets creative with structure. That's the spark. So why do the 49ers keep getting labeled a logical landing spot? Simple. Win now window. This team isn't building for 2028. It's trying to win right now. And nothing defines a championship defense more than consistent quarterback pressure. Crosby isn't just sacks on a stat sheet. He's relentless. He's the guy who speeds up the quarterback's clock on every snap, who makes clean pockets feel like they're closing in, who turns late-game drives into survival mode. That type of edge rusher flips games without needing exotic blitzes or perfect coverage every single down. Think about the fit for a second. You've already got a scheme that knows how to unleash edge talent. You've got young pieces. Then you add a player who doesn't need help to win one-on-one. Suddenly, quarterbacks in the NFC West are making decisions half a beat early. That's not just good for the defense. That's a psychological thing. It changes how teams call games against you. But the dream has a price, and it's not a small one. The Raiders don't have to move the face of their franchise. If they ever even listen, the asking price would be massive. Premium picks, real money, and likely a contract restructure on arrival. And if Crosby ever hit the market for real, it wouldn't be only the 49ers calling. Every contender would be lining up for that conversation. So frame it the right way. The 49ers are watching the elite edge market, and Crosby is the dream target if the Raiders ever take calls. That's the safe truth. Watchful, ready, logical, without pretending a deal is already happening. And while everyone's picturing a monster off the edge, there's another decision sitting right there, quieter but just as strategic. Quarterback. The position that turns every comment section into a full-on debate. At the end of season press conference, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan gave every indication they wouldn't be trading Mac Jones this offseason. And honestly, that makes sense. Brock Purdy has dealt with injuries, and this league punishes teams that don't have a real plan B. But there's a difference between we don't want to trade him and we won't listen. And that gap usually gets measured in a second-round pick, because the Mac Jones we saw in San Francisco wasn't the guy who looked lost in New England. Here, he revived his career. When Purdy was out with that turf toe injury, Jones stepped in and helped the 49ers go 5-3 during an 8-start stretch. Calm, quick processing, system-friendly. It looked a lot like the Sam Darnold path. Back up here, then break out somewhere else. And GMs around the league absolutely notice patterns like that, even if fans don't want to talk about it. Now the value piece gets really interesting. Tom Pelissero, talking about Vikings chatter on KFAN, hinted at what it would take. He didn't slam the door on the idea that the 49ers could trade Jones, but he made one thing clear: it wouldn't be cheap. He said he doesn't know that the 49ers are taking a 4th rounder, or even a 3rd, for Mac Jones. Read that slowly. If you want to sit at the table, you're talking serious draft capital. A round 2 pick starts to feel like the real entry point. And it gets even more complicated because Jones would likely want a contract extension as part of a trade, since his deal runs through 2026. So an acquiring team wouldn't be renting him for a quick spin. They'd be betting on him. That's why the leverage is real. The 49ers don't have to sell. They can wait. They can watch who panics. And when you're in that spot, you usually set the terms. Now zoom out, because the biggest theme today might be the defense, just not in a tweak a few things and move on way. More like a reset. The ESPN analysis angle makes sense because Lynch and Shanahan have basically admitted the problem wasn't schematic. It was personnel. When Nick Bosa and Mykel Williams went down with torn ACLs, the engine stopped. Without pressure, everything behind it got exposed. The back end got stressed. The margin for error vanished. The defense lost its identity. That's why the word being used is overhaul, aggressive free agency, and possibly a blockbuster trade. Ben Solak's ESPN prediction is that the 49ers could pursue a veteran interior disruptor like John Franklin Myers and an edge like Trey Hendrickson on a 1-year deal. Those are practical moves. Plug the production gap. Keep flexibility. Let the draft board develop without acting desperate. But the part that should grab every faithful fan by the collar is the possibility of a big swing via trade. An established impact edge rusher who sets the tone on early downs and creates pressure without needing constant schematic help. That costs cap space and premium assets, no question. But it also changes the balance of the NFC West immediately. If you can win on the edge with 4, you dictate everything. Red zone decisions, 3rd and long, late game drives. You're not hoping for mistakes, you're forcing them. And it wouldn't stop up front. Linebacker and safety help would likely be part of it too, bringing back coverage range, communication, and that center field presence so the defense doesn't crack when the rush takes a hit. So put these 4 storylines together. Keeping Kubiak protects the offense's heartbeat. The Crosby talk shows hunger for a game-tilting pass rusher. Mac Jones being a valuable asset shows cold, smart roster management. And the defensive reset tells you the standard is being reinstalled. No excuses, no reruns. Nothing here feels random. It feels like urgency, ambition, conviction. All right, faithful, your turn. Which one of these decisions defines the 49ers' immediate future the most? Drop your take in the comments, make sure you're subscribed, and hit that like button, because this offseason is setting up to be loud.